Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a listener suggestion, diving into one of the Beatles' most, well, universally known songs, I suppose,
Yeah.
Yellow Submarine.
Oh.
It's a song everyone knows or thinks they know, but there's this long-standing question, almost a pop culture mystery, that you asked us to look into. What was the Yellow Submarine? Just a fun kid's song about a boat? Or, something? Well, something darker.
Right. That's the mission. We've looked at the sources, the history, the theories, and we're aiming to get to the bottom of this question that pops up online all the time. Was it just pure whimsy, or is there some kind of hidden, maybe even conspiratorial, meaning baked in?
Okay, let's dive straight into that murky water then. The submerged theory, as some call it. It sounds a bit out there at first, but you can see how people got there. The whole thing seems to pivot on one seemingly tiny detail. The color. Yellow.
Yes. The theory goes that in the 1960s, certain prescription drugs, specifically some rather notorious downers like Quaaludes, were commonly produced as yellow tablets.
And so the connection is made. The Yellow Submarine isn't this charming vessel you sail away in.
No, according to this interpretation, it's the pill itself. You don't sail in it, you gulp it down. The lyrics are reread through that lens.
So the chorus, "We all live in a yellow submarine," suddenly shifts. It's not about communal living on a boat.
It becomes an invitation almost to take the drug. And the whole journey described isn't to a magical land.
Right, it's the drug-taking effect.
Okay.
The sources pushing this theory say the submarine sinking or running aground is about the pill hitting your system, bringing you down, submerging your feelings.
It turns this incredibly cheerful, almost childlike song into something quite dark, a song about taking downers, essentially.
It's quite a leap, isn't it? From a sea shanty to a coded drug reference.
It is, but you have to remember the time. This was peak Beatles analysis, the era of Paul is dead, rumors, scrutinizing every frame of film, every lyric.
Okay, so like the Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and LSD thing, people were actively looking for hidden drug messages.
Exactly. There was a culture of suspicion, maybe even paranoia around pop music and hidden meanings. So finding a drug reference wasn't necessarily about what the Beatles intended, but what listeners were primed to find.
That context is really important. It explains why the theory might have emerged. But, okay, let's pump the brakes. Let's talk about what the sources call the great unthinkable.
Yeah, this is the reality check. Could the Beatles, arguably the most famous, most scrutinized band on the planet,
Whose every word was picked apart by, well, everyone, parents, the press, preachers.
could they really have put out a song, basically an anthem about taking Quaaludes, and then marketed it as a children's song?
It just seems audacious to the point of being unbelievable.
The sources are pretty clear on this. The short answer is almost certainly not. Even for them, masters of pushing boundaries and subtle messages, an actual undeniable drug anthem aimed at nursery schoolers.
That would have been something else entirely. It wasn't some obscure track. It was a massive hit single.
A global #1 in many places, and presented very openly as this fun, lighthearted thing. The sources even make a bit of a joke about it, suggesting this theory assumes Liverpool schools in the 60s were teaching advanced pharmacology instead of, say, geography.
Right. The idea of this complex chemical code originating there in that song, it just doesn't quite fit the picture, does it?
It feels like projection, I think. Us looking back now with decades of cultural analysis baggage, trying to find depth where maybe there wasn't any intended.
We're looking for complexity they perhaps never put there.
Exactly. Which kind of brings us back towards the simpler explanation and towards the man who actually sang the song.
Okay, so let's pivot. Let's talk about the simpler, maybe funnier truth. The sources call this Ringo's redemption.
Yeah, and the sources amusingly state the drug theory never held any water. Nice little pun there.
Yeah. So the focus shifts to Ringo Starr. He wasn't the architect of some dark conspiracy.
Not at all. He was just the guy who needed a song to sing on the album. Something simple, something catchy. The story goes, and the sources lean this way, that the idea might have come to him when he was, shall we say, recovering.
Recovering from a monumental hangover, as one source puts it.
Something like that. Maybe half asleep, wanting something easy, a kid's story, a simple tune. Paul McCartney helped flesh it out. Donovan apparently chipped in a line. It was collaborative, but rooted in simplicity.
So it's a story about a little boat. Because a little boat seemed like a fun, easy thing for Ringo to sing about.
Pretty much. And what's really telling is how the band themselves always talked about it. They were completely open.
No coyness. No hints of a hidden meaning.
None whatsoever, according to the records. They consistently called it a children's song, something meant to be sweet, simple, maybe a bit daft. They seemed genuinely proud of its innocence and not trying to hide anything.
But okay, just to play devil's advocate for a second, why a submarine? Why not a yellow bus or a yellow plane? Doesn't a submarine, by its very nature going underwater, being hidden, suggest something less than straightforward?
That's a fair point, but the sources suggest a couple of things. One, the image of a yellow submarine wasn't entirely out of the blue. It had a kind of playful, adventurous feel that was already sort of present in kids' culture. Think bath toys, maybe. And two, sometimes it just comes down to musicality. Yellow Submarine has a certain rhythm, a certain sound that just worked for the chorus they were building. It fit the melody, the cadence.
So it was a fun visual that also happened to scan well musically, not necessarily chosen for its symbolic depth.
That seems to be the most likely explanation based on what they said and how they worked. It wasn't some deep metaphor they invented. It was more like grabbing a colorful image that fit the mood.
All right, that makes sense. But we still need that killer piece of evidence, right?
Yeah.
The thing that really seals the deal and says, look, this was just about having fun in the studio. The sources do offer something like that, don't they? The aha moment.
They do. And it's not in the lyrics, interestingly enough. It's in the actual sounds on the record.
You mean the sound effects?
Yeah.
The party noises, the band playing?
Exactly. The sources describe the recording session as being, well, chaotic fun, lots of friends invited, noisemakers, brass bands. But there's one specific sound effect. If you listen really closely during the verses, amidst all the clanging and shouting,
What is it?
you can hear someone stirring water. Not just a little bit, but like sloshing water around in a big metal tub or a bucket.
Seriously? Stirring a bucket of water?
Yep. A totally low-tech, hands-on sound effect. Probably meant to sound like churning water or maybe the propeller, who knows. But it's unmistakably just someone messing about with a bucket.
That really does bring it back down to earth, doesn't it? It's not some sophisticated studio trickery hiding a message.
Absolutely not. It points to pure, innocent, slightly bonkers studio fun. It's the sound of people making silly noises for a silly song. That simple physical act documented in studio logs just doesn't mesh with the idea of a carefully coded, dark message.
It paints a picture of joyful chaos, not cunning conspiracy.
Precisely. It solidifies the idea that the whole point was to create this atmosphere of ridiculous happy adventure, a fantasy boat trip made with whatever they had lying around the studio, including a bucket.
So when you put all the pieces together, Ringo's need for a simple song, the band's openness about it being for kids, the lack of any real evidence for the drug theory, and then these very basic fun sound effects.
The conclusion seems pretty clear. The sources overwhelmingly suggest the Yellow Submarine was always just that, a fantastical boat and a fun, nonsensical song, built for sing-alongs, not secret messages.
Any other interpretation, especially the darker one, seems to be something we've layered on top of it much later. Our own need to find complexity, maybe.
I think so. It's about creation versus interpretation. The Beatles offered this bright, simple thing, and some parts of the audience, maybe influenced by the times, felt the need to dig underneath it, looking for shadows.
So for you, listening now, what's the takeaway? Maybe it's that sometimes a fun song is just a fun song. Sometimes the surface is the meaning.
Remember the Yellow Submarine next time you hear a catchy pop tune. Maybe the joy is the point, not some hidden code.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
Until next time, keep on opening new worlds with new ideas, new songs, old songs. And whatever you do, remember this. If a song like this can be called a masterpiece of nonsense, maybe we should pause before we assume every simple, joyful creation is hiding a complex conspiracy. How often do we mistake fun for a facade?